Hey team, welcome to part 2. Today we are pulling apart the V12, the M275, now that we've pulled it out of the S600. So this is going to be exciting. Let's get into pulling it apart and get into part 2. So team, a little bit of an update. We're just in the process of removing the wiring harness. So the whole harness here runs down on each bank with all of its associated injector plugs. We've also got a few other little sensors here. We've got two in the middle, air temp sensor, and I assume that's like the map sensor. Might be wrong. Then we've also got coolant temperature sensor. Now on each bank, below the exhaust manifold, we have two knock sensors, and these are the last things I've got to take out. The knock sensor on this side is easy, you can see there. This one's a bastard on both banks. They're like nestled right in here, and for some reason I can't take this oil dipstick tube out. It hits on the exhaust header, so I can't get it out enough to get my hand in there to just be able to pull the clips and pull the plug out. So I'm going to go and have lunch and then give it a go again shortly. So team, the turbocharger oil and coolant lines are off. These are at the turbo, fed from the block. We've obviously still got the bottom ones down here, which we're going to try and crack off as well. There's obviously a hidden bolt down there, from what I can see. And yeah, so the same at the bottom here. To be honest, actually, I'm not sure how we're going to get those off. that's actually going to be a bit tricky. I don't know how we're going to get them off with the motor mounts in the way. I watch a YouTube channel which you guys have probably all seen, Legit Street Cars. He does the same rebuild with the V12. I might see what he does with his, because there's some bolts, like especially for that back pipe, that is going to be quite hard to get to. So I'm not quite sure how we're going to handle that actually, but never mind. We've got the top ones off. So these here go to the block at the back of the block. And that's the line feeding it. Same on this side. This is this set is for this side, so that plugs into the turbo there. Those plug in there. That goes to the back of the engine again. So the oil feed lines, both the oil feed ones sit on top of each other, and these plug in separately. But as you can see, the O-rings do flatten out over time, so they go flat. Whereas if you look at the O-ring that I've replaced these O-rings before, maybe a few years ago. If you look at the O-ring on this one, it's actually still quite thick because it's still pretty new. But yeah, if you compare it to the old one, it's literally flat, like it pancakes out. So commonly you'll find that the M275s, they leak from here on the top. So we've got our old gasket there which we need to take off and cover up. So we've got our gasket here. This one's still actually in good condition. Usually when you pull them off they're pretty buggered, but so what we're going to do is we're just going to cover these up because we don't want anything getting into them. But we're going to cover them up and dismount all the old O-rings and clean the pipes up, and we're just going to put them into our storage for now. Same on this side, same setup. This side's got no coolant in it, which is interesting. Don't know why, but anyway, same thing on here, little plastic, metal gasket. Same thing on the top there. We've also got the return lines. What I believe to be the return lines for the diverter valve. For the, what do you call it? The actuator, that actuates the wastegates on the turbochargers in here. So our wastegate actuators, so here's the diverter valve that captures the air returned back into the intake, and then we've got our actuator down the back there, and that runs off of this half rubber, half metal hose system attached to this here. So I've already disconnected this, which was attached, I believe, I can't even remember now. It was attached to possibly the block somewhere. I actually can't even remember now. Luckily I've got it all on video. But that controls the wastegate actuators for both turbochargers on both banks. So if we just gently pull that out, same on this side. There we go. That's that assembly there. Just gentle, I don't want to wreck these hoses. They're very expensive replacements, these. So ideally, if the rubber hoses here aren't in too bad a condition, we can just reuse this. We'll just clean it up and give the rubber hoses a good clean and reaffix them to the system when we're ready. But yeah, I'll leave that with the wiring harness for now. So we'll leave that there. And now we've pretty much got down to the bare vacuum system, which we have to remove. So all of the stuff here just held on by clips. We'll pull all of this off. Secondary air injection valve, and another one over here. That's where it plugged into. Yeah, plugs into their tank, so it's fed through here. I think that controls the that controls the vacuum there. I'm still confused by it all, but I think I'll master it once I've done it. So yeah, we're going to do that. We're going to pull the vacuum pipes off now and try and get them all together, We're probably going to inspect closely all of these hoses, because I have got a lot of parts on order to replace a lot of the hose, so we can basically rebuild the vacuum hose system just one part at a time. Even little plastic hoses like this I've got replacements for, so we might change these as well. At least this is on top of the engine though, so worst case it's easy things to fix later on. It's more stuff like down here, you don't want to have to be reaching in and replacing hoses later. So yeah, what we're going to do now, as I say, is just start dismantling the actual rest of the vacuum system here and pulling it all off. Looks like we can't get out this this alternator here, because this bolt is like too wedged between the subframe. So what we're going to have to do is wait till we lift the motor out of the car before we take the starter off, and then it'll be easy peasy. So yeah, that's all done. Now what we're going to do is just probably start to dismember the top intake and fuel injectors. So Tim, we've got injectors out. We've got the air intake, I guess manifold off. Glorious 6 holes each bank, 12 cylinder. We've got our vacuum tank in the middle here as well. I've been rewatching Legit Streetcars, Alex at Legit Streetcars doing his V12, and yeah, we've got all these parts, which is good. So I've already got this in the parts bin already. You can already see here, team, like all the build up from where this O-ring's leaking under this cover. It's quite bad. It's pretty gnarly. So yeah, I'm excited. We'll just keep pulling everything apart. I do already have this hose here, replacement hose for it. So we'll probably end up replacing just this stuff here. And these things here, I know this was a sort of a weird part, quite a unique part. We'll just end up taking it apart and possibly just cleaning it and keeping it as is. Yeah, so everything looks good in there. We've got our valves, if you can just see them poking through, so that all looks good. What we're going to do now is basically start pulling apart each valve cover, taking the valve covers off, getting the timing set up, and taking the front covers off the engine here. So taking this cover off and this cover off. Once we've taken the covers off, the valve covers off, then we'll have full access to the timing gears, to the camshaft gears, sorry, and then we can start to break those things free and start to really get into the meat of the whole project. So we can get into this pan and then start getting everything put back together again. Let's continue. We've got the covers off off both banks, team. Everything looks real nice and clean in here. There's no obvious scoring or damage to any of the cam lobes or rocker arms or anything. Same on this side, looks good. So what we're going to do now is two things. We're going to take the covers off the fronts here, both sides, to give us access to the timing gears, or the camshaft gears, cam gears. We're also going to release the pressure using a crank bolt. I think it's the same size. No, it's not. Okay, I'm wrong. Must be a different size. Our timing chain tensioner. You can see it's pushing the guide into place. But no, I thought it was that one, but obviously not. Okay. And we're going to get the guides matched up to, I think it's 30 degrees top dead center. It's either 30 or 40. I'll just check on the WIS. I think it's 30. But yeah, and then we'll be able to fit our locking tools, so we can then take the gears off the camshafts. But obviously, yeah, we need to take those covers off first and release the tension in the chain. But yeah, we're getting there. Once we've got that off, then we can start undoing the head bolts and pull the actual heads off and get into the nitty gritty. So Tim, we've got the covers off each bank, which is cool. Now we're going to take these little pins out, and these hold the tensioners, the timing chain guide, in place. Now there's a special tool as usual for it, but again, thanks to Legit Streetcars, thanks to Alex, we've got a few. I've sort of rigged up similar thing that he's got. So we've got first off, we've got an M6 screw, long screw, that we're going to put on, and to give us some room, we're going to put this nut on above it, and then on top of that goes our little I think it was M8 and M10 from memory, washer, like that. And then we're going to screw this in through the middle, and then screw that into the base. So if I put the camera up, I'll show you what we're doing. Cool. So following Alex's steps, what we're going to do is, first off we're going to screw this thing here right down, so we've got enough room. Then we're going to put our washer on top, thread it through, our second bolt, thread it through. So we've got it stacked like that, team. And then we're going to screw that into the head there, like that. And then I'm just going to tighten this up there, right? Cool. So now what I can use is a, actually I'm not sure what size it would be. I might need to just use a normal wrench. Cool. So if I use this wrench here, team, we want to keep tightening this up to basically pull the pin out that's holding the timing chain guide in place. Now what I've realized while doing that is it's twisting the whole assembly, which is fine, but in theory it's gonna possibly mar the mating surface here. So what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna loosen that off, and I'm going to screw this screw here. I guess primarily we want to make sure this is far in as possible. So I'm going to get a screwdriver and screw that in. This was the only downside, team, was the that's better. Now if we try it again, if I counter hold this, it means I won't yeah, that's better. So we're going to start cracking the head bolt. So basically we've got our head bolts in the little grooves down here in between, and inside the actual head here as well. So the correct size for that is this size here. It's a TX55, or I guess a T55, I don't know, whatever. So we'll put a little extension on it, and then we'll follow the specific order that the WIS specifies in loosening these bolts. So I've got a nice big breaker bar that we'll use, and we'll put an extension on it, and then we'll start cracking them off. But yeah, as I say, first off we have oh, it's actually not synced yet to this computer. There's a diagram showing you what order to loosen them up in. I've got it on my phone, so we can get into it anyway. Let's go. So team, we've cracked off bank 1 all the head bolts. The outboard bolts are shorter than the inboard bolts. So we've just worked our way in basically, slackening from here, working our way in until we're in the middle. Although the way it goes actually is you do inboard, outboard, and then up here it's outboard, inboard, inboard, outboard, outboard, inboard, and work your way into the middle. So you can see the bolts here, they're just sticking up down in here. So I just stick my bolt and just sink them out of the hole. Just be careful you don't hit anything with your bits. You don't want to scratch any of these lobes, obviously. So I'm just going to pull the rest of these bolts out. I'll keep them in order for now, even though we've got brand new ones. And then the head is loose. So then I'm going to move on to the bank 2 and do that. Hey team, so a day later, head bolts are out, thank God. And I mean thank God. I'll explain in a sec. So we've got basically 14 bolts on each side, on each bank, plus the 2 smaller bolts at the front. And you take those off first. So there's 2 bolts, I'll show you on the camera here, at the front of the head, and then there's 14 on the bank that you take off in an alternating sequence. But I had a bit of a scare. So yeah, these 2 first, 1 and then 2 somewhere else up the top there in the gap there. Same on this bank, 1 there and 1 there. I want to keep everything sort of covered up. Now I had a scare on this side, like a big scare. What happened was, I just think I wasn't really angling. I guess I just wasn't really paying extra careful attention maybe. And I imagine my Torx bit slightly slipped out of one of them, and that ended up causing just a lovely exciting like semi-rounded off top, where I would then try again putting the bit in, and it would just sort of like, you'd twist and put torque on it and it would just sort of like slip out, like pop out, like we're sort of smoothing off the counterclockwise rotation to loosen it up. So it put the absolute shits at me. I'm not going to beat that out because that's literally what it did. So what I did is I basically put the Torx bit in there, whacked it with a hammer a few times. I bought some penetrating oil as well, because it was already slightly loose. I could slightly tighten it up again, but when I went to undo it, it would just slip off. So I used my impact gun on it just for like a few seconds max, and that sort of slightly loosened it off again. So I tightened it up, loosened it off, tightened it up. But what I actually did in the end was I found that my toolkit had another another T55 bit, this one here, and this seemed to grip it slightly better. And I actually think like this one's already slightly bowed or like deformed, but the one I was using originally was deformed as well. So that was quite concerning. Anyway, continuing on. So what I did in the end was I saw online a guy that was in this one here. So there's a guy that said what you can do is tighten up the surrounding bolts again. So these ones are already tight, these are still torqued down, but these ones are out. So I put these back in and hand tighten them probably to like 10 or 15 Newton meters max. So obviously not tight because we don't want to start warping the head or anything, but just enough, you know, just tight enough that combined with that new little bit, plus plus just a bit of testing, you know, with the big breaker bar, putting a lot of weight on top of it to try and stop it from popping out. I managed to get, like, I guess the sort of lucky Hail Mary lock on it where I got it sort of to bind again, and I was able to crack it and it popped off again, and I thought I'd hit the gold you know, the gold bucket, and I had. So it was finally sort of loose. But what I did is before I actually fully loosened it, I took that bolt out again, and when I went to take this off, it was actually hard again. But I just put a little more effort in and it came out. But it did show me that if you've got a stuck bolt like this and it's not fully threaded like this one, put the surrounding ones back in and just lightly do them up. And it actually seems to take enough off to help me get that sucker out, thank God. And the rest of them out. So both banks are now out. Now one major cock-up that I've made, team, is that I didn't realise that the outboard bolts were shorter than the inboard bolts. So I've ordered flipping like 30 of the same size head bolt. So I've done an urgent order on fcpeuro.com and purchased the shorter bolts, 14 of them. You need 14 on each bank. You don't need 32. I bought 32 across the whole lot for some reason. There's 14 each bank, 7 short, 7 long, 7 long, 7 short. That's all you need. So yeah, next week I'll hopefully get the other head bolts. So in the meantime, we're going to take the heads off, take the valley plate out, take the vacuum tank out, probably pull the water pump off, and I'm just waiting for a crankshaft pulley holder to come in, and we'll just give everything a tidy up. But for now, I'm literally going to go and relax and have a beer or something, because yeah, that's enough for me today. If I can just get that head off, which I have, and that bolt done, I'm happy. I'm happy. It was like stressing me out the last 24 hours. Cool. Hopefully that helps someone else though, if they get in the same position as me. Bit of a rookie mistake, I think. I might be wrong, but I think I sort of possibly cocked it up. Anyway, we're good to keep going. So team, while I wait for my friend to come and help me lift these heads off, you probably know him in the other videos, Nick. He gives me a hand with some of this stuff. Cussing Nick, he likes to swear a lot, so I had to beep his voice out on my videos. He's going to help me pull the heads off. I could lift them myself off. The only issue is, you'll see down here, we have these oil lines, and they're like sort of quite stuck into the block, and the pipes themselves are metal, so you can't just easily pull it and bend it. So I'm going to try and like lift it off, and he can pull it out at the same time, and that'll get us off. In the meantime, now starts the sort of fun part. Well, maybe fun, I don't know. We'll find out. Where we start to replace all the seals on everything we have. So if we look in this box here, this is our ABC and AC compressor box. So we've got all these ABC seals to replace. You know, on this box here, we've got our vacuum and top of the engine system. So we've got our fuel rail. We've got our fuel injectors up on the bench, so we need to replace the seals on them, inspect all these vacuum hoses and replace things, as well as on our intake manifold here we've got some new sensors. We've got a new air temperature sensor there. We've got a new brake booster clip set up. And saying that, this one looks pretty tidy, so I don't know if I'll even bother with this. Like, it looks really tidy, like there's no, there's no real damage to it. We might take it off and just inspect it anyway though, just to see. Down here, new seals for these. To be honest, these parts here like this is one of the coolant feeds for the turbo, as you can see. These little gaskets, little metal washer gaskets here, we'll just probably do them when we reinstall them, so I won't bother with those. And yeah, other bits and pieces as well. We've got a new tensioner coming, so I'm just waiting for that. There's our oil separator external connection that goes on the front of the cylinder. We've got our thermostat and secondary air injection all in one assembly. So there'll be some new seals on here to put in, clean up, so we'll clean those up. And yeah, a lot of this stuff we'll put a bit of brake cleaner on as well, and just see if we can make it look a little prettier. I'm not going to go and bother spending probably thousands of dollars getting everything vapor blasted, because I don't have the equipment myself to do that. Engine oil cooler lines, replace that. We'll take the valve cover, old seals off the valve covers, and get those replaced. And yeah, do some of our electrics as well, like our knock sensors. So let's get into it, team.
1, 2, 3, 4.
So team, we've cleaned this up. It's obviously not perfect, but we've cleaned all the mating surfaces up. And I actually need to give this still a bit of a scrub with some brake cleaner and a brush. But this part looks pretty good. It was all caked up because this is where the oil, the positive crankcase ventilation runs through. There's like quite a lot of build-up of sort of like soot and, well, not soot, but like oil and dust on here. So we've cleaned that up and fixed that. I've also cleaned this up pretty nice. So the gasket surface is all clean and ready for silicon. And we've also pressed out and pushed in the new center seal here, right? And there's just a slight little lip. You can see a little metal lip. Basically that sort of shows you where you've got to push it down into, and you just want to make sure the whole way around you can see that lip coming through, so it's installed equally. But when you are installing it, you can sort of see where the original one was, just gently, so you can just sort of tap it in. I used the 32mm. It's not quite wide enough, so not ideal, but just going gently, it pushed it into place and it's fine now. So that part's good to go. This part here, as I say, we've got our new little seal that goes in here for the, I think it's for the secondary air injection. And then we've got this little gasket here which goes into this gap, which is for the, I believe it's for the, it had oil in it. So I'm not sure exactly what it does, to be honest, but it had oil in it anyway. So what we're gonna do now is I'm actually not gonna install these just yet. I'm just gonna package them with the part, so that when we do install them, we can chuck them straight in. Now what we're going to do is just put the fuel injectors back on the rail with fresh O-rings, and we're going to give them each a little quick clean. And I'm going to, I'm not going to bother cleaning them actually. If I mentioned that earlier, I was going to give them a clean. Internally, I'm not going to do that now. I'm just going to, I just realized I made a mess of them, look at them. Jeez, okay. I'm just gonna give them a quick spray and and just wipe them clean with a nice microfiber. And then we'll reinstall the top O-ring, and we'll put them bottom O-rings on when we go to install them, I think. I don't think I'll put them on just yet. Let's continue. Right team, so fuel injectors all back together. Using a little bit of Vaseline on the O-rings because you'll find they won't go in when you push them into the rail. And then we've got this little part facing inwards, and this clip goes around and locks on each edge. Just make sure that's like that. The tips are nice and clean. See the little nozzles on them. Just verify they're nice and clean. Now we're going to wrap it up in Glad wrap or plastic wrap. Then we're going to keep our O-rings aside for when we put the rail back into the car, back onto the intake manifold. No, back onto the head, sorry. I think they mount directly, oh no, I think they directly mount into the intake manifold. Let's check. Pretty sure they go into the intake manifold. Yeah, they go into here. So we will give these a clean because you can see these bores are quite dirty. Yeah, so that's another little job for us to do. But we're going to wrap this up now in Glad wrap. Then what we're going to do is just quickly grab the valve covers, remove the gaskets, and have the new ones ready to go, and just make sure they're all clean inside. Cool, valve covers ready to go team, all done. Packed away nicely, so are our secondary air injection, little timing case covers, combination thingies. Now what we're going to do is we're going to chuck 2 new knock sensors down here, and we're going to clean this up before we take the heads off. Cool. So we've taken the heads off with help from Nick. On this bank too, it's a bit of a bitch because you've got the timing chain comes up quite high, and you've got also this bracket for the ABC pump and the oil feed you got to get out. But the first bank here, this side's easy as. So now we're taking off this plate, which is the culprit for all the problems of this motor. And we're just covering up the timing chain holes just to make sure we don't drop anything in it. Sweet. vacuum tank's out. Now the plate, it probably should lift off. No. What about under there, Nick? If you get a little pick, bro, you might be able to. It might just sort of. We should be careful we don't snap or like bend the. And I've got to be careful that it's also a small point. It might need a bit of a bigger
heat on it.
Yeah. I've taken the valley plate out, and if you look at the O-ring, you can see the crack in it.
Oh yeah.
So, do you want to pull it out, mate? It'll be, I bet you, it'll be all crusty and fucked.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
straight away.
It already snapped like a piece off. That piece there without dropping it in the. Yeah, cool.
Pretty brittle there.
Yeah. How brittle is it?
Fucking
Oh
brittle,
yeah, it's like plastic.
Yeah.
Okay, we should frame that. That's our little flipping
Souvenir.
like 50-cent bloody
Souvenir.
souvenir. All this work just for that, pretty much. Like literally, that's true though, because like you don't have to do any of this if that, you know. But yeah, there's also some weird build-up which I haven't seen before. It's obviously some sort of corrosion. Oh, if you look actually at this is actually broken. Look at that.
Foot plate.
Yeah.
It's all corroded off and
Should we
melted.
we'll take that out and see. Let's buy new. Did I buy one of those? I actually think I did buy that.
Did you?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I did. I bought pretty much everything I could find. Well, I hope I did. I'm pretty sure I remember buying it. It's not in there. Oh. Well, maybe not. I'm going to be honest. Oh, I did. Yes! Here it is. God knows, yeah. But that one's black and this one's like just, maybe it's a newer version or something. No, that's good. Cool, so that's the end of part 2. Now we'll get on to putting everything back together and getting it in the car. Thanks for watching. See you next time.